Hi, I'm Izzy, and this is Dizzy Quilts and Sews. In today's video, we are making another mug rug. All right, so this is going to be our summer-themed mug rug. So a nice sunset on a hot winter's evening. Yeah, we're going to learn a couple of techniques that I've not used yet in any of my mug rugs. So we're going to do a little improv piecing with the slash and insert technique for our sun rays. And we are going to use applique for our sun. So I've got all of the materials you're going to need, the pieces of fabric and all the cutting instructions down in the description box below. So have a look at that and let's get started. All right, so here are all of the pieces that you're going to need for your little mug rug. So we have a background piece. So mine is bright pink. You're going to need, well, this piece needs to be, I would say about 8 inches square. Mine's a little bit bigger, but that's just because I had the piece this size and I just didn't bother cutting it down. So a pretty large, like 8 by 8, I would say, of your background. Need a piece that's about 2 inches wide by 7 inches long. Mine's probably a little bit longer, but that's fine. That's going to be the water or the bottom of your mug rug. You're going to need your sun. To do that, you need a square, or square, what am I saying? A circle that's at least 4 inches across. And then you're just going to cut down in the middle in half and end up with this half circle. That's going to be your sun. And then you'll need strips for your sun rays in different widths. So I have, 1 1/4, 1 inch, 1.5 inch. So a few strips. You'll need at least 5 of them, and they need to at least be 7 to 8 inches long. All right, so I'm going to cut these to size when I need them. That's why I left them pretty long. Then you're going to need 2.5 width strips for your binding. The total length needs to be at least, I would say, about 32 inches to go around your mug rug and leave a bit of a tail to then join the 2 ends. And then finally, you're going to need a backing fabric. I had this lying around my sewing room from a recent toile or muslin I was making. So I just decided to use it. It's quilting cotton. It's pretty neutral. So I'm going to use that as my backing fabric. Alrighty, so you're also going to need some thread, obviously your sewing machine, a rotary cutter, some kind of ruler. Doesn't matter the size. It doesn't need to be huge. Obviously, we're working with a pretty small piece here. You're going to need some pins because we're going to pin some things in. And that is pretty much it. So gather all of your supplies and then we're going to start piecing. All right, so here is my sample little quilt top. You'll notice I've got pins here because I haven't sewed this down yet, but for now we're not focusing on that. The first thing we're going to do is, and actually let me take these out so you can see better. The first thing we're going to do is stitch these rays inside, and we're going to do this with, no measuring, no calculating, no real, pattern or system. This is pure improv. And this technique is actually called the slash and insert technique. So what you're going to do is just take a spot. The only important thing here is that your sun rays radiate from the bottom middle of your background. So they go like this way. And we're going to do 5 of them. So I like to start with the first one, pretty much up and down. But again, I'm not measuring. I'm just positioning my ruler roughly in the center of my big square and slashing. Okay. Next, you're going to take one of your strips and you're going to piece it in the insert you just created. So you're going to stitch it down here at 1/4 of an inch right here. Then you're going to press your seam towards your strip, and then you're going to piece it to the other side again at 1/4 inch and press your seam towards your strip. So basically on the back, it's going to look very messy, but we don't care because we're not going to see this. But on the back, all of your seam allowances are going to be pressed towards your rays or your yellow fabric in this top. All right, so I'm going to go over here and sew this down to 1/4 of an inch, press, sew it to the other side and press, and come back here when I'm done. All right, so I've got my first ray inserted. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab my ruler and my rotary cutter and just stitch another one. So slash anywhere. Don't measure, don't overthink it, just slash. And then grab another strip and you're going to piece it. Now you're going to notice at some point, because you keep slashing into the same area, it's going to get pretty bulky here, but don't worry about it. It'll all work itself out. So grab your strip. You can cut off the excess if you really have a lot down here. And then again, stitch at 1/4 inch and press your seam allowances towards your inserted strip. All right, here's my second strip done. Now I'm going to take my ruler and just kind of eyeball, like right here. Slash, grab another strip. There we go. Cut some of the excess and go and stitch that. So I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side, slashing about here and then slashing about here. And when I'm done all 5 of my rays, I'll come right back. All right, here we go. I've got my 5 strips pieced. And like I said, I have a bit of a mess going on down here. Look at this, but that's okay because we're going to cut that off in a second. So the next thing you're going to do is take your sun and position it where it basically covers all 5 of your rays, so that you have an idea of how much you can remove here at the bottom, because that's what the first thing we're going to do. We're going to straighten this out a little bit and take out some of this bulk. So it looks like I have about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch to play with here. So I'm going to just cut this down a little bit by about 3/4 of an inch. There we go. Get rid of this. Now our mug rug is going to be 7 inches wide. So I'm going to put this on one of my lines here on my cutting board. And I'm going to look at about, where do 7 inches take me? And they take me about here on both sides. So I'm going to take one of the sides out. Now this is where you need to be a little bit precise, because we want to end up with a square mug rug. And so we want 90-degree angles here. So I'm going to make sure that my measurement here is at about 7 inches. And that I'm making 90-degree angles. All right, yeah, so I'm at about 7 inches wide. right? So you're not going to cut the top off just yet. So this is where we should be now. We have 7 inches here. You're probably going to have like 8 or 9 inches, however long, but that does not matter. As long as your bottom is even or squared up with your sides, you're good to go. The next thing we're going to do is position our sun right here. And you can use a few pins here to make sure it stays in place. There we go. All right, so I've got my sun right here. All right, now well, actually, we could probably do this now. I'm going to go to the machine now and zigzag this sun in place, basically appliquing it down. So use not a super wide zigzag, but a zigzag wide enough so that one of your stitches or the needle's going to go down in your background fabric one and then in your sun one. And you decide how dense you want it to be, but don't make it so dense that you're going to end up with a big bump all around your sun. So just go ahead and zigzag your sun into place here. All right, here we go. So I was too lazy to change my thread to yellow thread, so I've got nice pink applique thread here, but yeah, I'm okay with that. So our sun is now stitched in place around the half circle. You'll notice that it's still kind of not sewn down at the bottom. That's okay. We're going to deal with that next. So you're going to take your blue strip that you cut down to 2 inches wide, and you're going to attach it now to the bottom here. Okay, I have excess on both sides. That's okay. I'm going to cut that down afterwards. So stitch that down at 1/4 inch seam allowance and press your seam allowance towards your blue fabric. All right, here we go. So I've got my water attached. So now we've got a mug rug that is 7 inches wide and way too tall. So we're going to have to cut that down to about 6 inches. But first you have a decision to make. So you can leave your water as it is, and you're going to end up, once the binding is on and everything, you're going to end up with water that's about 1 inch to 1.5 inches tall, which, you know, if that's the look you're going for, leave your blue strip exactly the width it is, and then measure your 6 inches from the bottom of your blue strip to the top of your sun rays. I'm going to cut my water down a tiny bit. I'm probably going to take 1/2 inch off, and that's going to leave me with about 1 inch of water when it's all said and done. All right, and now I'm going to take my ruler and cut my mug rug to 6 inches. Okay. There we go. All right, so we've got our mug rug top all done. And we've learned how to slash and insert and do a little improv quilting. We've done applique, which basically will keep this from unraveling. And the raw edge that you had at the bottom is now under this blue strip of fabric. So, and you've got a beautiful little sunset mug rug top. So now, like we've done for all of the other mug rug tutorials I showed you, you're going to take your backing fabric. Mine is way too big. Don't cut yours this big. I'm going to find a scrap of batting and then put my little quilt top on top and quilt this little baby. I'm probably going to do some more wavy lines across with my pink thread, kind of liking the pink vibe here. I'm going to keep it simple. And yeah, I'll come back to you once I've done my quilting. All right, here we go. So there you go. Like here. All my little mug rug quilted. Kept it very, very simple. And now we're going to square this up because quilting is always going to distort your quilt a little bit. So now you just need to go back in, and as you're removing the excess backing and batting, you can square it up and make sure you've got 90-degree angles. There we go. All right, there we go. So now the next step is to prep my binding. So I'm just going to sew all of these strips end to end until I have a long strip that I'm going to sew around my little mug rug. I'm not going to show you all of that in a lot of detail. I have a couple of tutorials on my channel for bindings. I'll link one of them down in the description if you want to have a look at that. So I'm going to prep my binding, sew it on, and then I'll come back here when it's all done. All right, there we go. Our little mug rug all done, quilted and bound with the black and white fabric. This is probably not my best sewing ever, but it'll do. All right, well, I really, really hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you make one of these for yourself or as a gift, whichever you want. If you have any questions about this video or about piecing your little mug rug, please leave them in the comments below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please give the video a like on your way out if you liked it, and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks again, and I will see you soon.